Okay, today we are going to be replacing a split HVAC system. So to give you some context, we're replacing this condenser on a 3-story commercial office building roof. The unit's almost 30 years old, has a failed compressor. The condenser cooling fins have been damaged by a hailstorm, and there is signs of leakage on the line set, and the thermostat wire has a break somewhere between the 3rd floor roof and the 1st floor where the air handler is. So here's the major pieces of equipment I'll be using in the video today. This video is not a step-by-step in-depth video for this process. It simply is to give you a high-level overview of what it takes to replace a split HVAC system. So you'll need a recovery tank to recover the old refrigerant out of the old system, and a recovery machine. You'll need a vacuum pump to pull a vacuum on the new line set or the old line set. Once you've flushed the old line set, if you're going to be reusing it, you'll need a digital scale to weigh the amount of refrigerant that you're removing from the old system. And in my case, we have a 3-story, 45-foot long line set. So we're going to need to add a little bit of refrigerant to accommodate for that long line set, and we're going to want to weigh in that refrigerant. So just a quick note, I highly recommend you practice kitting and staging for large projects like this. What does that mean? Kitting is simply the practice of assembling a kit of all the parts, supplies, and tools you'll need to perform that job ahead of time. That way you're not running around scrambling, looking for tools and parts and pieces. And staging is a practice of placing the equipment and materials needed to perform a task on site ahead of time. So do you need a forklift? Do you need a man lift? Do you need lengths of conduit? And it's always a good idea to inspect all the equipment once it arrives to make sure it's not damaged and ready for install. So again, have everything kitted and staged ahead of time so you can hit the ground running when you do the install. Okay, so here's the new HVAC split system that just arrived in our shop. I believe I bought this from HVACdirect.com. This new system is a R410A system. The old system took R22. We're just going to go ahead and inspect everything, make sure nothing's damaged, make sure everything's there. They did a great job palletizing it for us. It arrived quickly within a few days. Here's the air handler. We'll unbox the condenser. Comes with the inline filter dryer, instruction manual. Let's take a look inside that air handler. You can see your heat exchanger. Everything looks good. Draft inducer fan spins freely. Compressor inside there. Here's your data sticker with all your info. Make sure when you order a new system that you have the correct voltage, the correct BTU rating, etc. Inspect the A coil. It comes with our metering device. The bulb's already wrapped with insulation. That's nice. Got a TXV. Everything looks good. So safety first. Remember to shut the power off to the equipment before working on it, and wear PPE. And if you're going to be recovering refrigerant or adding refrigerant to an HVAC system, you need to be HVAC certified, specifically EPA 608. I personally have a universal certification. There's type 1, type 2, type 3, and universal. So I'm going to start by pulling the vacuum on this brand new recovery tank. I'm using a brand new vacuum pump, so we're going to need to fill it up with vacuum pump oil before we can use it. If the vacuum pump oil is old, dirty, cloudy, milky, etc., you want to drain it out and put fresh vacuum pump oil in your vacuum pump. I'll also be using this digital vacuum gauge. And ideally, the larger and shorter your vacuum hoses are, the better when you're pulling a vacuum on a system. So there's our vacuum gauge. So ideally, you want to pull down below 500 microns or as low as your vacuum pump will pull a vacuum on that tank. Now up on the roof, we have our recovery machine, recovery bottles set up, the power's turned off, the compressor's dead anyway. We have our manifold gauge set up. We're going to go ahead and recover all the refrigerant out of this old split system. Again, it's R22. So I'm going to label the recovery bottle R22. I'll zero out my scale once I have the tank on the scale. Then once I'm done recovering all the refrigerant I can out of the system, I'm going to write with a Sharpie how many pounds of refrigerant I recovered on the tank. So once I get all of my hoses and recovery machine and everything hooked up, I'll turn the recovery machine on, and I'm going to watch my scale, see where it starts. And again, I ended up pulling about 8.75 pounds of refrigerant out. Now this is our new line set. We're going to go ahead and gently stretch it out on the roof to lay it out flat as I can, being careful not to kink it. We'll also lay out with it the new thermostat wire. So I got the thermostat wire stretched out. I'm going to go ahead and lay out the new line set with it, and I'll use electrical tape to tape the line set and the thermostat wire together every 2 feet or so to make it easier to feed it down from the roof 3 floors below to the first floor where the new air handler is. And to do that, I'm going to have a couple of gentlemen help me do that off camera. Again, because we want to reduce the risk of accidentally damaging or kinking our new line set. Now, unfortunately, the vertical chase was capped off with what looks like bitumen or blacktop or asphalt patch. So I had to chip away and cut away at that to open up that chase to free up the old line set and give me enough room to feed the new line set down through the building. Now that we're done on the roof for now, I'll go downstairs, turn the gas off, turn the power off to the air handler, disconnect, and remove the old air handler. So we've disconnected the vent pipe, the gas line, and the electrical. With the plenum disconnected, I'll go ahead and pull out the old A coil. The A coil gone, we'll go ahead and pull out the old air handler. Wear gloves and watch out for sharp edges. Now I'm going to set the old air handler next to the new one, and I need to transfer some measurements for the air intake and cut the openings for the air intake on the side of the new air handler. First, I'll slide out the new blower motor assembly because I do not want to drill or cut into that while I'm cutting into the side of the air handler body. See everything marked? Everything's cut out. I'll clean up my cut. Slide the blower motor back in. The next step would be to install return filters on this unit. So you can buy ready-made filter racks or filter rails, or you can bend your own with some tin snips, measuring tape, and a hand metal bender. That's what I did here. I'll go ahead and slide the new air handler in place. We'll place a new A coil on top. And hook up our gas line, high voltage, low voltage power, and our plenum. The reason why this unit has two return filters, one on each side, is because this unit serves two separate office suites. So there's a return from one suite and a separate return from another suite. When you're installing a new system, you may have to rejigger the supply and return plenums to get them to fit perfectly with the new unit, because this new unit was a slightly different size, dimension-wise, than the old unit. Not a big deal, just keep that in mind if you make it out of ductboard or if you make it out of a metal plenum. So I'm going to actually place everything where it needs to go, set it in position, then I'll reattach my supply and return plenum and get everything sealed up. If you're getting any value out of this video, please consider subscribing. It helps this channel move up in the YouTube algorithm so we can help more people. So if you're working in a facility that doesn't allow hot work, meaning no torches, you can use these Zoom lock push fittings. They come in different sizes. These are R410A compatible, and they're simple and easy to use. They're similar to the shark bite fittings you find like in plumbing applications. You have multiple O-ring seals inside. Do not stick your fingers in there. Keep them packaged up until you're ready to use them. That's what it kind of looks like installed. Use those Zoom lock fittings on the right-hand side here. That P-trap you see is to trap oil when the system shuts off because we have such a tall, long line set going up to the roof. We don't want to flood our evaporator with oil when the system shuts off. And 3.5 to 3.8 inches water column manifold pressure. You can find your manifold pressure on the data sticker inside the furnace itself. It'll tell you what it's how many inches of water column you should have for natural gas in this case. And I'm using a manometer here, so we're right on the money. Woo! So the air handler's working good. The following morning we had a crane show up to crane the new condensing unit onto the roof for us. We'll get that hooked up today. So again, you want to stage everything ahead of time so the crane can show up and make the lift as quick and easy as possible, because time is money with these crane companies. So with the condenser placed on the roof, the power is still off. We go ahead and connect our high voltage to the contactor, as you see. Next, we'll connect our low voltage 24 volt thermostat wires. So these two wires run down to the first floor air handler to the control board. And on the circuit board where your thermostat terminals are, the blue wire connects to the common terminal or the C terminal. And in this case, we're using a red wire, would connect to the yellow terminal on the terminal screws. And I'm using Stay Bright 8 and MAP gas to solder my connections instead of using the brazing torch and brazing rod. This is the second option I wanted to make you aware of. Stay Bright 8 is a great solder, high strength solder. So here we've soldered in the filter dryer. Next we'll solder in the suction line, and you'll note I wrapped a cold damp cloth around the service valve. There they are, both installed. So Stay Bright 8 is a quick and easy way to make your connections with your copper line set. It doesn't have to get near as hot as if you were going to braze it. Woo! We'll add our insulation to the cold suction line. Your suction line is a cold line. Your discharge line would be the hotter or the warmer line, the smaller one. So now that we had the line set ran and connected downstairs and on the roof, we can go ahead and pressure test the new line set and A coil with some dry nitrogen. So before I do that pressure test, I'm going to remove both valve cores from both service valves using the valve core puller tool that you see here. I'll reinstall the valve cores once we pass the pressure test, pull the vacuum, and release the refrigerant charge from the condenser. You can see I got my dry nitrogen hooked up to my regulator, hooked up to my line set. So basically you got to hold it for a certain amount of time and the needle shouldn't move on the gauge. So once we pass that test, it's also called a decay test. Now we move on to pulling the vacuum on the new line set and A coil. So I'll hook up my vacuum pump and hoses and vacuum gauge. And while we're waiting for the vacuum to come down or pull down at or below 500 microns, again, ideally low as you can go with your vacuum pump, I went ahead and resealed up that roof penetration to make it weatherproof. So we successfully held a vacuum. We're going to go ahead and open the service valves now with our service wrench on both sides. Once we do that, we'll turn on power to the condenser. The air handler is running downstairs. The condenser is running on the roof. We'll hook up our manifold gauge set here and check for temperature and pressures. Again, this is a R410A system. Because it's a longer line set, I'm going to need to add a tiny bit of refrigerant to make up for that long line set. And we'll use a PT chart, a pressure temperature chart, to make sure we get the charge just right. And that'll complete this project. Please like, share, subscribe, leave me a comment, and thanks for watching.